Hello, hello. How is it going? Let's see here. Hello. I need to move my tripod just a little bit and hope I don't break the whole system by doing that. Hey, Victor, how are you? How is it going? How's your week been, Victor? Don't mind me, I'm just doing something really quickly on my computer. Richie Rich says, just finished Slaughterhouse 5. Richie Rich, you picked a good day to come by the live stream. We're going to read some Kurt Vonnegut. Hey, Normal, how's it going? How's your Monday? I'm doing a little bit of quick research on the beer that I'm about to drink because I forgot to look up the alcohol by volume. Nice Try says hello. Hey, Nice Try. How you guys doing? Happy Monday. Welcome back to the live stream. We are back. Richie Rich just finished Slaughterhouse 5 and liked it. I have good news for you. Hey, Sporadic Reader, how are you? Lieber or Liber. I don't remember if I figured out how to say your name correctly. Hello, hello. We've got some of the good, the main crew. They're back. Hey, Christopher, how are you? How you guys doing? I'm just getting the live stream pulled up on my computer so that I can see what's going on. Man, have we got a full show for you today. Nice. Where are you? Nice try. Where are you? Where are you? How late is it there? Good night. Thanks for coming. Light in August and Being in Time. Oh my god. You've been reading hardcore. Let's see here. You know what? What is funny? I'll look at the camera to try and read the captions, and then I'll look down at my face on my computer and notice that I'm sitting here like looking at the camera. It's real. I'm gonna get better at this. I promise. I'm gonna get better at this. So beer for today is from Tapestry Brewing, which is from Michigan, the state to my north for those of you Europeans. Midnight in Sweden. Hello, Victor. Victor, you must not be a morning person. I have a feeling you are not a morning person. Okay, alcohol by volume on this one is 6.5%. It's called Peck's Porter, English style robust porter featuring all English malt and hops. Drink some Wisconsin beer. Do you have a good recommendation for me, Richie Roll? Or Richie Rich? I just said Rich Roll. Sorry about that. Best in the States. What's a good Wisconsin beer? I feel like my stepdad used to really like a Wisconsin beer. I don't remember what it was though. Let's see here. Spotted Cow, New Glarus. Spotted Cow sounds familiar. East of Eden is my next to read. My girlfriend is currently reading East of Eden at my recommendation. She can't be here today because she is at work. God bless her. So I can talk crap about her while she's not here. Just kidding, I would never do that. This is pretty good. I like it. Maybe Wisconsin will be next. Wisconsin. I like this. It's no 19% beer, that's for sure. 11 p.m. in Ireland. Perfect timing. All right, cool. Well, at least I'm getting some of you guys, some of you Europeans, at not like 2 in the morning. I've had the most great day. I've had the greatest day. I read a lot today, and the book is sitting right over there. I'll show you what I'm reading right now. It's not something I would have ever thought that I would have really liked, but I'm reading something really good right now. So before I do that, I have some poems I want to read to intro the show. This is a collection of poems called It Is If I Speak by Joe Winderoth, who was a professor of mine at UC Davis. 6 p.m. here in Canada. Hey, it's 6 p.m. here in Eastern United States too, Lieber. We're on the exact same time zone. The beer burps have started already. Joe was a professor of mine at UC Davis, a very wacky fellow, quite the weird one. I had some really incredible classes with him, though. I took a couple poetry workshops, though. I'm not a poet necessarily. I mostly write fiction, nonfiction stuff, but did take some poetry workshops, and I'm very glad I took his for a good reason. He also taught a class called Poetics, which was one of the most interesting and thought-provoking classes I ever took. Basically started from the ground up and kind of tried to figure out what poetry is and what poetic speech does, and I had my mind changed quite a bit about things that I thought that I believed. So yeah, I'm gonna read you some of his weird poems. He's a weird one. I mean, I don't think he has any non-weird poems, but I'm gonna read you some weird ones. Let's see here. Where is it? I also want to read. Okay, so this is where the title comes from. Oh my god, I'm the worst. What classic work is this? I'm really bad and I should know this. Oedipus says, "Did you give him the child he asks about?" Herdsman says, "I did. I wish that I had died that day." Oedipus says, "You'll come to that if you don't speak the truth." The herdsman says, "It is if I speak that I will be destroyed." So for Book of Poetry, the quotation, "It is if I speak that I will be destroyed," has some obvious and great connotations there. Normal, remind me of the name of that poem, because I did read it and I wanna Google it and read it on the live stream. I liked it so much. I read it directly after the last live stream. Remind me of the name of that, because I'm gonna look it up here in just a second and I'll read it. I really liked it. Okay. Let's see. Where is it? Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is one. This is one I like. It's called "Send New Beasts." There's another one that I'm trying to find, but I can't find it. "The Stick" by Mark Waldron. I'll read that in just a second. "Send New Beasts" by Joe Winderoth. These beasts will not do. 1. Their bleeding is decidedly inadequate. From a distance they appear not to bleed at all. Considering the likelihood of distance in today's Spectator, this is not a small problem. 2. While they are exotic enough in appearance, and I assume this is why they were selected, they have a tendency and an ability to hide themselves in plain view. I don't claim to understand this ability. I only know that it is widely felt that, even at close range, they are difficult to get a good look at, and this is especially true when a blow is being struck upon them. It's almost as if they're immune to isolation, as if they are able to always appear, no matter how alone they are, in the noise and confusion of a herd. 3. They are far too obedient and willing to receive blows. Indeed, they seem to sense when a blow is coming and to move intuitively into it. If this movement was desperate, graceful or graceless, it might generate some interest, but it seems to fall, tragically, somewhere in between. That is, they seem able, at every point in their torture, to collapse in a reasonable fashion, as if the collapse was being dictated by their own will. No one enjoys, I don't think I even need to tell you, a reasoned collapse. It is this aspect of the beasts that most deeply defeats us, our simple want of a show. Their attacks, and I hesitate to call them attacks, are largely indistinguishable from the active reasoning of their own collapse. It is as though they seek above all to expose us to this activity of theirs, to infect us with their will to reason, and in so doing reduce us to the unvarying rhythm of their irreducible herd. I would like to say that we are immune to this reduction, but I am not sure. In any case, I see no good reason for continuing to subject ourselves to these attacks. It would be better to have no beasts at all, to live altogether outside of shows, than to sink numbly into tolerance of a spectacle which fails to clarify what it is that distinguishes us from beasts. I just really like that poem. Like, to me, that brings in it creates this world of like I don't know. My mind goes a lot of different places with that, but like it brings to mind this world where like humans are these beasts that are used for entertainment, but we're not all that entertaining, and that is our big problem, that we're not entertaining enough as beasts. I don't know. It's good. Let me find another one. Actually, I'm going to Google real quick "The Stick" by Mark Waldron, because I read it after the end of the last live stream, thanks to Normal, and it was really good. Let's see. "Self-Reliance" by Rolf Waldo Emerson. I have not read Self-Reliance. Had to read a section of it for class one time. Have you read it, Lieber? Do you like it? Tell me, why do you ask? Why do you ask this question? Okay, I interrupt your Joe Winderoth experience to bring you The Stick by Mark Waldron. Existence trumps non-existence every time. It has all the colors and all the shapes and all the moves. It is rude in its bounty and its grotesque reach that overcomes all before it. This bit of stick I found in the park was showing off because the dead can't have it. They can't have any of it. It was sticky and prickled with a showy, dazzling presence, though it's quieted. I can't do that. I can't do that word right. Wow. It is quieted down. Wow. Apparently there's a word that I cannot pronounce. It is quieted a little now that I've taken it home and have it here on the mantelpiece. It has dressed in purple robes and carried its being like a chalice with such disarming mock solemnity down and down the pale carved steps into its candlelit depths. Its being rests inside it now and purrs, quite inaudibly, with a sound like the most exclusive refrigerator, or a sound you might take for your own sovereign wheels spinning. Little stick, wait for me, I'm coming. Mostly I really love that the last two lines right above the last two. Its being rests inside it now and purrs quite inaudibly, with a sound like the most exclusive refrigerator. We've all got that most exclusive refrigerator sound inside of us. That's the sound of being alive, I think. Okay. Anyways. Uh-oh. Did anyone else get a YouTube alert that sent you to the wrong stream? I have apparently messed up. I tried to schedule a live stream, which is maybe how I messed this up. Should I delete the other one? I'm really bad at technology, guys. I'm really, really bad at technology. Did anyone else have that going on? Yeah, and of course, normal. My pleasure. Happy you recommended that poem. I loved it. Oh, crap. I'm so bad at technology. All right, let me go see if there's something I need to delete over there. I'm the worst. I need one of you all to know exactly what you're doing so that I don't have to be the person who messes stuff up. Because that's the benefits of being in management, is that when people mess stuff up, it can always go down the chain a little bit. Okay, I won't delete it, Philip, just because you have made a comment in the comments. So I will read that. I'm not going to delete it. Have I read much Murakami? I have read his collection of short stories After the Quake. I have read Wind Up Bird Chronicles. I've read, I think, one more book, and I'm blanking on it right now. I have not, funnily enough, read What I Talk About When I Talk About Running, which is the one that I should read as a runner for the last 16 years of my life. But I have not. So, let me find you. We're going to do two more poems. Christopher, I have a great answer to that question. Christopher asked if I'm going to vote. Give me 5 minutes, Christopher, and then I'll talk to you about whether or not I'm going to vote. Thanks for asking. Okay, so this is a good poem, a really short one called Knowledge by Joe Winderoth from the collection It Is If I Speak. Knowledge. Morning swells until its shadows are each other's easy prey. I know the laughing fast with the carcass eyes of shadows, it won't last. The bit of noise has never been swayed. It won't last. Oh, there is a poem in here that I really want to read. Okay, here it is. Oh my god, okay. This is one of my favorite poems I've read in the last probably 5 years. So, this is My Life, and it's after Henry Michaux, which is a French name that I definitely just mispronounced. This is My Life. Somehow, it got into my room. I found it, and it was naturally trapped. It was nothing more than a frightened animal. Since then, I raised it up. I kept it for myself, kept it in my room, kept it for its own good. I named the animal My Life. I found food for it and fed it with my bare hands. I let it into my bed, let it breathe in my sleep. And the animal, in my love, my constant care, grew up to be strong and capable of many clever tricks. One day, quite recently, I was running my hand over the animal's side, and I came to understand that it could very easily kill me. I realized further that it would kill me. This is why it exists, why I raised it. Since then, I have not known what to do. I stopped feeding it, only to find that its growth has nothing to do with food. I stopped cleaning it and found that it cleans itself. I stopped singing it to sleep and found that it falls asleep faster without my song. I don't know what to do. I no longer make my life do tricks. I leave the animal alone, and, for now, it leaves me alone too. I have nothing to say, nothing to do. Between my life and me, a silence is coming. Together, we will not get through this. I love that poem so much. It's called My Life by Joe Winderoth. He is a weird dude. Did we like that poem? Am I the only one? I freaking love that poem. Oh, Lieber says this is a great poem. So, Normal also says it was good. Let's see here. Wait, somebody's gonna get a PhD. Lieber is thinking of getting a PhD. Ooh, philosophy. What kind of philosophy? Do you know? I mean, like, what kind of philosophy are you most interested in? I have thought about a PhD, but I am unlikely to get one at this time. That might change. Theater/performance studies. Incredible. Normal. We'll have to talk about, what kind of theater do you like, Normal? I'm a big fan. Just a bookish soul. Hello. They say, I love this poem. Yeah, me too. I'm a big freaking fan. Existentialism is the most interesting for me. Lieber, I think there's a reason you found your way onto my stream. Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. Could not agree with you more. Ethics is really nice. Ethics I like a lot. I'm real bad at logic, but existentialism is what's up. Okay, that was the poems I was reading from It Is If I Speak by Joe Winderoth. I wanted to switch it up a little bit with the poems today. So, a couple minutes ago, Christopher Robles asked if I am voting tomorrow. And the short answer is yes. I have a crazy story about the fact that I got registered to vote on the exact last day that you can register to vote in Indiana because of some problems with me switching my license over from California to Indiana when I moved back after grad school. It was a whole big mess, and my registration for my vehicle, etc., etc. I did get it done on the very last day. Also, little factoid, the BMV stresses me. I'm embarrassed to even say it. The BMV stresses me out more than anything else in life. Not even kidding. My girlfriend had to go with me one of the times, and witnessed my palms get super sweaty, and I just got super terse, and I just really hate the BMV. But I got it figured out. Also, that I could vote tomorrow. If you live in the United States, tomorrow is our midterm election. Please vote. I said that I had a story to talk about, which is that I ordered a book a while back because it sounded super interesting. And it sat on my shelf for part of this year, and I picked it up yesterday, and I have wanted to do nothing else today but to read that book, and that is The World as It Is. It's by Ben Rhodes. He was a speechwriter, but he also worked on the national security, as a national security advisor to President Obama. The subtitle is A Memoir of the Obama White House. Basically, I'm like 120 pages in, and it's telling the story of the first couple years in office with Obama. But kind of really, in particular, he was one of the big speechwriters, and so it's this whole angle on how you figure out current events and how you figure out trying to get a message across to a lot of different people, taking someone else's ideas and thoughts and policies and trying to make them a cogent statement. It's really good. I did not think that I would like it this much, and I'm really liking it. It's making me want to read more history, which is not a thing that ever happens. The World as It Is, I believe, is taken from one of the speeches that Obama gave in the last in the 8 years that he was president. Let's see here, and it might have been taken from something else before that. Halvard, I don't know if you're asking me this question, but I'm gonna answer it anyways. Camus or Sartre? I have read both of them. Looks like you were asking Lieber. Never mind. Let's see. Victor says, not gonna lie, I've been following American politics more than the Swedish elections. My sympathies to you, Victor. Yep, it's a time to be alive. That's for sure. That's for sure. Let's see. Yeah, it's been, so anyways, it's really good. Yeah, Ben Rhodes is this, like, he was very young when the Obama campaign started, and he got kind of hooked into the Obama campaign, and then basically, like, rose to be one of the few men who was, like, let into Obama's closest circle and kind of, like, let him behind the curtain as a lot of the big events of that his 8 years in office were unfolding. So, The World Without Us, Lieber asks me. No, I have not read The World Without Us. Tell me more. The other thing I like about it is that, man, this is sounding like a paid advertisement for this book. I have no investment in this book or this author. I never knew who Ben Rhodes was slightly before I bought this book. It's just really interesting to see, like, all of you're kind of let in on the decision-making process for some of the largest events, like Arab Spring, like healthcare, like just some of the craziness that happened in 8 years. So, let's see here. Halvard says that they've been following Swedish politics more than Norwegian politics. What's going on in Swedish politics? Learn me something. I wanna learn. Tell me something on Swedish politics. Also, if one of you guys has not already done this, would one of you be kind enough to go to the other stream that I apparently scheduled for this time and make a comment about how we're here? Because I'm really terrible at technology. I will be forever indebted to you if you do that. Halvard, if you're gonna give me a synopsis, just give me your best bet at an objective one. Yeah, I know objectivity is not actually super possible, but do your best if you want to. If not, no big deal. All right, I'm gonna get some beer. So what are people reading this week? What's going on? Oh wow. Sean, hey Sean, how's it going? Sean says, how long does it take you to read a page? Man, that depends a lot on the page. This Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut that we're about to read has pictures on it, so that goes really quickly. I really need to do one of those tests. Maybe we should do it on a live stream sometime. I'm not going to do it right now. Where, like, you test your reading speed. We can all take the time to do it together, because I'd be really interested to know if I read quicker than average or slower than average. I feel kind of slow, but I don't know that that's a fact. And maybe, I don't know how to compare. I've never really been inside anyone else's head as they're reading, which is the lovely and terrible thing about consciousness, is that I don't know what it's like for other people. Let's see. Who is your favorite author? Mine is Cormac McCarthy. Man, I don't know if you were asking me, Lieber, again. One of my favorite authors right now is Jesse Ball, who I have talked a little bit about on the channel, and I still need to make a video for. Flannery O'Connor for short stories. She's freaking brilliant. Let's see here. Ooh, Paul Martin has almost finished the corrections. What are you thinking? That, man, speaking of politics, speaking of the early 2000s, or the 2000s, yeah, what a time. Two big moderate parties left and right, and one pretty far right one. Gotcha. Interesting. If I speed read, it takes me 30 seconds. That's fast. Maybe I'm slow. See, Norma likes Beckett. Beckett is not a shit playwright. Somebody on the live stream the other day said that Beckett was a shit playwright, and I was very offended. Let's see here. Zach Jones said, I just read the first two sections / chapters in The Pale King and already loving it. I am so happy for you. That makes me very excited. I'm working on a video for this week about The Pale King, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. Oh, wow. Philip has been reading up on the history of the Weimar Republic. Wow. But that's way interesting. I actually had a crazy idea this week, which I'm not going to go through with, to be very clear. I want to mention that first and foremost. I'm not going to go through with this. I had an idea that I wanted to read the Pulitzer Prize winning books in the nonfiction category for every year since 2000. I might do something like that, like maybe National Book Award, maybe Pulitzer. That's just a lot of books, and I really don't want to stick to a schedule like that and then encounter a book that I don't want to read and which is really terrible or like terribly hard to read and kills all my momentum. Especially after October, I have so much reading momentum right now. Excuse me. The beer burps are real. Ooh, Drake asks 2 really good questions. What's your worst habit as a reader? Having my phone in my pocket. Because if it's in your pocket, then I get that weird like little pseudo vibration thing, and I'm like, oh, I better check my phone, and then I get distracted. That's one of them. And then also Drake asks, are you thinking about rereading Infinite Jest? I am thinking about it. There are some other really big books I need to devote the time to, like Underworld by Don DeLillo is somewhere up there, and I really need to read it. I would love to read all the My Struggle books by Mouseguard, etc. Against the Day by Pynchon is also somewhere up there. My to be read pile is partially, at least, all the way at the top of my bookshelf, which is why I'm pointing all the way up there. Let's see. Ah, Victor. Okay, that's incredibly interesting. 2 months since the election day, and we still don't have a government. This is because no one wants to work with the far-right party. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Yeah, Paul Martin says that Franzen has family relationships down. I could not agree more. God, that guy's brilliant at that stuff. Like, there are some very small stylistic things that annoy me a little bit with Franzen sometimes. And I think is part of the reason why he's like he's a little bit of a meme in the literary community. Yeah, I mean, he writes women a little bit in a frustrating way sometimes. He's got this, like, it's almost this, like, Victorian attitude towards like, selfhood, is I think the way I would word that, which probably sounds smarter than actually the truth. But do you listen to podcasts? Which one? Ooh, great question. I'm going to give you just one recommendation for a podcast that I think everyone could enjoy. It is called Song Exploder, and they're short 15 to 20-minute episodes, and the host has artists on to break down, to explode their songs, and so they talk about what went into the song, what created it. You can either listen to every single one, which is what I do. It's great from a creative perspective, or you can just like cherry pick the bands or artists that you really like and hear them talk about stuff that they make. So it's really good. Let's see here. Alike says hello. Hello, Alike. How are you? Cheers. Happy Monday. Dude, best part of my freaking Monday. Every time. Hanging out on live stream. Makes me so happy. Lieber is writing a script. Hell yeah. Nice work. Congratulations. Keep after it. I don't know what to say. You're doing great. Let's see here. Christopher is writing short stories. Man, you guys are all killing it. I wrote today, which is nice, but I did not write very much. I think Endgame is a really great start to Beckett. I've not read much Beckett, though, so Endgame's just, like, kind of famous. It's really good. Reading Ibsen. Halvard is reading Ibsen. Nice. Waiting for Godot, also good. Joe Rogan is a good podcast. I listen to specific, like, I can't listen to 2.5 hours a day. I can't do it. Joe Rogan's good. His interview with Elon Musk is nuts. It's nuts. I don't really have any thoughts on Bob Dylan winning the Nobel Prize. I'm going to answer questions for like 2 more minutes, and we're going to read some Kurt Vonnegut. I'm just lubricating my throat real quick before we read Vonnegut. I know that's what you guys are here for. Screw me. Let's get to Vonnegut. I don't really have any major thoughts on Bob Dylan winning the Nobel Prize. Genre is a fiction anyways. Like, fiction is a genre, and genre is a fiction. I don't think that, genres are so hard to define anyways that I think, yeah, no real crazy, you know, controversial thoughts on Bob Dylan. I love Bob Dylan. Let's see here. Sebald. I've not read Sebald. I'm doing swell. I like to hear that. Let's see here. Anyone read any Nietzsche? I don't know how you say that name. Friedrich Nietzsche? Nietzsche? Nietzsche. I think it's Nietzsche. I think it's that one. Yeah, see, I had friends in in academia talking both ways about Bob Dylan winning the Nobel Prize, and not invested enough one way or the other. Bob Dylan's great. I mean, Nietzsche. Okay, good. Yeah, I said it right. Cool. That's good, because I mispronounce all the other stuff, so. I mean, I picked up a book of, I didn't own it. I don't own it. I picked up a book of Dylan's lyrics the other day. Yeah, I mean, what is poetry, right? That's as close to poetry as anything else. Shelly says hello. Hello, Shelly. How are you? Harry says, hello, Harry. Says, thoughts on Franzen? I was just talking about this. I like the dude a lot. He knows interpersonal relationships. He's so, which is funny, as a person, he's so emotionally literate in terms of family relationships that he is, in my mind, he is one of the ideals to aspire to in that way. In a lot of other ways, I think he falls a little bit short. I think he's super interesting. His novels, in my opinion, are basically the Victorian novels written about the 2000s. I think he's great. I do. He is a little bit, he's memeified a little bit, but there's that funny tweet. Have you guys seen it about Franzen? It's a fictional situation, obviously, but him talking about how he's pregnant with the next great American novel. That is an amazing tweet. Somebody find that and post it in the chat, please, because it's really good. Okay, so I see more comments, and I'm going to talk about them eventually, but we have some reading to do. So we did a thing last week, which I'm going to continue here. Excuse me. Which is that we read part of Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut. We're going to read about 30 minutes at a time, maybe 20 minutes at a time, per live stream. So this is your reward for chiming in, tuning in, and putting up with this dumb guy. When we last left, wow, this beer is making me burp. When we last left Breakfast of Champions, basic plot points here. A writer, Kilgore Trout, is writing stuff that Dwayne Hoover, I believe, is the name of the car salesman. Dwayne Hoover basically takes everything that Kilgore Trout writes and takes it super literally. So he basically assumes that all of that is true. We were most recently in chapter 2 talking about the plot of one of Kilgore Trout's novels. It was Kago and the Zeltodemarians, who were a group of homosexual aliens. I don't remember a ton more than that. Oh yeah, they were like automobile creatures. Yeah. Whose inhabitants resembled American automobiles. They had wheels. They were powered by internal combustion engines. Anyways, we're starting with chapter 3. We'll do this, and I'll take breaks when I need to burp and or drink water. So, chapter 3. Within a century of little Kago's arrival on Earth, according to Trout's novel, every form of life on that once peaceful and moist and nourishing blue-green ball was dying or dead. Everywhere were the shells of the great beetles which men had made and worshipped. They were automobiles. They had killed everything. Little Kago himself died long before the planet did. He was attempting to lecture on the evils of the automobile in a bar in Detroit. But he was so tiny that nobody paid any attention to him. He lay down to rest for a moment, and a drunk automobile worker mistook him for a kitchen match. He killed Kago by trying to strike him repeatedly on the underside of the bar. Trout received only one fan letter before 1972. It was from an eccentric millionaire who hired a private detective agency to discover who and where he was. Trout was, I imagine the he there being Kilgore Trout. Trout was so invisible that the search cost $18,000. The fan letter reached him in his basement in Cohoes. It was handwritten, and Trout concluded that the writer might be 14 years old or so. The letter said that Plague on Wheels was the greatest novel in the English language and that Trout should be President of the United States. Trout read the letter out loud to his parakeet. "Things are looking up, Bill," he said. "Always knew they would. Get a load of this." And then he read the letter. There was no indication in the letter that the writer, whose name was Elliot Rosewater, was a grown-up, was fabulously well-to-do. Kilgore Trout, incidentally, could never be President of the United States without a constitutional amendment. He hadn't been born inside the country. His birthplace was Bermuda. His father, Leo Trout, while remaining an American citizen, worked there for many years for the Royal Ornithological Society, guarding the only nesting place in the world for Bermuda erns. These great green sea eagles eventually became extinct, despite anything anyone could do. As a child, Trout had seen those erns die, one by one. His father had assigned him the melancholy task of measuring wing spreads of the corpses. These were the largest creatures ever to fly under their own power on the planet, and the last corpse had the greatest wing spread of all, which was 19 feet, 2 3/4 inches. After all the erns were dead, it was discovered what had killed them. It was a fungus which attacked their eyes and brains. Men had brought the fungus to their rookery in the innocent form of athlete's foot. Here is what the flag of Kilgore Trout's native island looked like. This is the picture book time of the live stream. So Kilgore Trout had a depressing childhood, despite all of the sunshine and fresh air. The pessimism that overwhelmed him in later life, which destroyed his 3 marriages, which drove his only son, Leo, from home at the age of 14, very likely had its roots in the bittersweet mulch of rotting erns. The fan letter came much too late. It wasn't good news. It was perceived as an invasion of privacy by Kilgore Trout. The letter from Rosewater promised that he would make Trout famous. This is what Trout had to say about that, with only his parakeet listening. "Keep the hell out of my bloody bag." Keep the hell out of my body bag. A body bag was a large plastic envelope for a freshly killed American soldier. It was a new invention. I do not know who invented the body bag. I do know who invented Kilgore Trout. I did. I made him snaggle-toothed. I gave him hair, but I turned it white. I wouldn't let him comb it or go to a barber. I made him grow it long and tangled. I gave him the same legs the creator of the universe gave to my father when my father was a pitiful old man. They were pale white broomsticks. They were hairless. They were embossed fantastically with varicose veins. And 2 months after Trout received his first fan letter, I had him find in his mailbox an invitation to be a speaker at an arts festival in the American Middle West. The letter was from the festival's chairman, Fred T. Berry. He was respectful, almost reverent about Kilgore Trout. He beseeched him to be one of several distinguished out-of-town participants in the festival, which would last for 5 days. It would celebrate the opening of the Mildred Berry Memorial Center for the Arts in Midland City. Midland City is a fictional place, by the way. The letter did not say so, but Mildred Berry was the late mother of the chairman, the wealthiest man in Midland City. Fred T. Berry had paid for the new Center of the Arts, which was a translucent sphere on stilts. It had no windows. When illuminated inside at night, it resembled a rising harvest moon. Fred T. Berry, incidentally, was exactly the same age as Trout. They had the same birthday, but they certainly didn't look anything alike. Fred T. Berry didn't even look like a white man anymore, even though he was of pure English stock. As he grew older and older and happier, and all his hair fell out everywhere, he came to look like an ecstatic old Chinaman. He looked so much like a Chinaman that he had taken to dressing like a Chinaman. Real Chinamen often mistook him for a real Chinaman. Fred T. Berry confessed in his letter that he had not read the works of Kilgore Trout, but that he would joyfully do so before the festival began. "You come highly recommended by Elliot Rosewater," he said, "who assures me that you are perhaps the greatest living American novelist. There can be no higher praise than that." Clipped to the letter was a check for $1,000. Fred T. Barry explained that this was for travel expenses and an honorarium. It was a lot of money. Trout was suddenly fabulously well-to-do. Here is how Trout happened to be invited. Fred T. Barry wanted to have a fabulously valuable oil painting as a focal point for the Midland City Festival of the Arts. As rich as he was, he couldn't afford to buy one, so he looked for one to borrow. The first person he went to was Elliot Rosewater, who owned an El Greco worth $3 million or more. Rosewater said the festival could have the picture on one condition, that it hire as a speaker the greatest living writer in the English language, who was Kilgore Trout. Trout laughed at the flattering invitation, but he felt fear after that. Once again, a stranger was tampering with the privacy of his body bag. He put this question to the parakeet haggardly, and he rolled his eyes. Why all this sudden interest in Kilgore Trout? He read the letter again. They not only want Kilgore Trout, he said. They want him in a tuxedo, Bill. Some mistake has been made. He shrugged. Maybe they invited me because they know I have a tuxedo, he said. He really did own a tuxedo. It was in a steamer trunk which he had lugged from place to place for more than 40 years. It contained toys from childhood, the bones of a Bermuda urn, and many other curiosities, including the tuxedo he had worn to a senior dance just prior to his graduation from Thomas Jefferson High School in Dayton, Ohio in 1924. Trout was born in Bermuda and attended grammar school there, but then his family moved to Dayton. His high school was named after a slave owner who was also one of the world's greatest theoreticians on the subject of human liberty. Everyone hold the phone. I think we have found the tweet about Jonathan Franzen. I'm pregnant, shouts Jonathan Franzen's wife. He places a finger on her lips. No, it is I who am pregnant, he says. Pregnant with the next great American novel. In my memory of the tweet, there was also a bit about birds. Like there was something about him watching birds too. The problem with Franzen is that he's just so easy to make fun of. He's also really good at his job, so like he attracts haters. But like, yeah. Anyways, yeah, just needed to interrupt for a second. No one before me ever drunken tea. I don't know what that means, Lieber. Okay, anyways. Trout got his tuxedo out of the trunk and he put it on. It was a lot like a tuxedo I'd seen my father put on when he was an old man. It had a greenish patina of mold. Do you know what patina means? Patina is such a lovely word. Patina is an incredible word. It means, I think, like a thin coating, like an outside coating, a patina of something. It's so good. It's a beautiful word. Some of the growths it supported resembled patches of fine rabbit fur. This will do nicely for the evenings, said Trout. But tell me, Bill, what does one wear in Midland City in October before the sun goes down? He hauled up his pants legs so that his grotesquely ornamental shins were exposed. Bermuda shorts and bobby socks, eh, Bill? After all, I am from Bermuda. He dabbled at his tuxedo with a damp rag, and the fungi came away easily. Hate to do this, Bill, he said of the fungi he was murdering. Fungi have as much right to life as I do. They know what they want, Bill. Damned if I do anymore. Then he thought about what Bill himself might want. It was easy to guess. Bill, he said, I like you so much, and I am such a big shot in the universe, that I will make your 3 biggest wishes come true. He opened the door of the cage, something Bill couldn't have done in 1,000 years. Bill flew over to a windowsill. He put his little shoulder against the glass. There was just one layer of glass between Bill and the great out-of-doors. Although Trout was in the storm window business, he had no storm windows on his own abode. Your second wish is about to come true, said Trout. And he again did something which Bill could never have done. He opened the window. But the opening of the window was such an alarming business to the parakeet that he flew back to his cage and hopped inside. Trout closed the door of his cage and latched it. That's the most intelligent use of 3 wishes I ever heard of, he told the bird. You made sure you'd still have something worth wishing for. To get out of the cage. I love that. That's so existential. To have something to wish for is maybe more useful than to have a wish. We're reading from Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut, for those of you who are just popping in. Trout made the connection between his lone fan letter and the invitation, but he couldn't believe that Elliot Rosewater was a grown-up. Rosewater's handwriting looked like this. You ought to be president of the United States. Bill, said Trout tentatively, some teenager named Rosewater got me this job. His parents must be friends of the chairman of the arts festival, and they don't know anything about books out that way. Out that way. That's the Midwest for you. So when he said I was good, they believed him. Trout shook his head. I'm not going, Bill. I don't want out of my cage. I'm too smart for that. Even if I did want out, though, I wouldn't go to Midland City to make a laughingstock of myself and my only fan. He left it at that, but he reread the invitation from time to time, got to know it by heart, and then one of the subtler messages on the paper got through to him. One of the subtler messages. It was in the letterhead, which displayed two masks intended to represent comedy and tragedy. One mask looked like this. The other one looked like this. They don't want anything but smilers out there, Trout said to his parakeet. Unhappy failures need not apply. There's a Twitter bio for you. If you're looking for a Twitter bio, if you're in the market for a Twitter bio, unhappy failures need not apply. That's a good one. But his mind wouldn't leave it alone at that. He got an idea which he found very tangy, but maybe an unhappy failure is exactly what they need to see. He became energetic after that. Bill, he said, listen, I'm leaving the cage, but I'm coming back. I'm going out there to show them what nobody has ever seen at an arts festival before, a representative of the thousands of artists who devoted their entire lives to a search for truth and beauty and didn't find doodly squat. Trout accepted the invitation after all. 2 days before the festival was to begin, he delivered Bill into the care of his landlady upstairs, and he hitchhiked to New York City with $500 pinned to the inside of his underpants. The rest of the money he had put in a bank. Excuse me. He went to New York first because he hoped to find some of his books in pornography stores there. He had no copies at home. He despised them, but now he wanted to read out loud from them in Midland City, as a demonstration of a tragedy which was ludicrous as well. He planned to tell the people out there what he hoped to have in the way of a tombstone. This was it. It says, somebody, sometime to sometime, he lived. And that is chapter 3. Real quick before I go on, I'm going to take a look at some of the comments. How's it going out there? Oh, hey, Alan, how's it going? I always see your name and I just want to call you Big Hard Books and Classics because that's how you come up on my YouTube channel. How are you? Oh, yeah, that's the best part of that. I forgot that that tweet was really good. Yeah. Yep. Alrighty. Get some water down my throat. Alright, so I'm going to keep going. This is chapter 4. Dwayne was, meanwhile, getting crazier all the time. This is that car dealer. Dwayne, what's his name? Dwayne... Why am I forgetting his last name? Dwayne Hoover. There we go. He's a car dealer. He saw 11 moons in the sky over the new Mildred Berry Memorial Center for the Arts one night. The next morning, he saw a huge duck directing traffic at the intersection of Arsenal Avenue and the Old Country Road. He didn't tell anybody what he saw. He maintained secrecy. And the bad chemicals in his head were fed up with secrecy. They were no longer content with making him feel and see queer things. They wanted him to do queer things also, and to make a lot of noise. They wanted Dwayne Hoover to be proud of his disease. People said later that they were furious with themselves for not noticing the danger signals in Dwayne's behavior, for ignoring his obvious cries for help. After Dwayne ran amok, the local paper ran a deeply sympathetic editorial about it, begging people to watch each other for danger signals. Here was its title: a cry for help. But Dwayne wasn't all that weird before he met Kilgore Trout. His behavior in public kept him well within the limits of acceptable acts and beliefs in conversations in Midland City. The person closest to him, Francine Pefko, his white secretary and mistress, said that Dwayne seemed to be getting happier and happier all the time during the month before Dwayne went public as a maniac. I kept thinking, she told a newspaper reporter from her hospital bed, he is finally getting over his wife's suicide. Francine worked at Dwayne's principal place of business, which was Dwayne Hoover's Exit 11 Pontiac Village. That's the title of the car dealership. Just off the interstate, next door to the new Holiday Inn. Here is what made Francine think he was becoming happier. Dwayne began to sing songs which had been popular in his youth, such as The Old Lamplighter, and Tippy Tippy Tin, and Hold Tight, and Blue Moon, and so on. Dwayne had never sung before. Now he did it loudly as he sat at his desk when he took a customer for a ride in his demonstrator, when he watched a mechanic service a car. One day, he sang loudly as he crossed the lobby of the new Holiday Inn, smiling and gesturing at people as though he had been hired to sing for their pleasure. But nobody thought that was necessarily a hint of derangement either, especially since Dwayne owned a piece of the inn. A black busboy and a black waiter discussed this singing. Listen at him sing, said the busboy. If I owned what he owns, I'd sing too, the waiter replied. The only person who said out loud that Dwayne was going crazy was Dwayne's white sales manager at the Pontiac agency, who was Harry LeSabre. A full week before Dwayne went off his rocker, Harry said to Francine Pefko, something has come over Dwayne. He used to be so charming. I don't find him so charming anymore. Harry knew Dwayne better than did any other man. He had been with Dwayne for 20 years. He came to work for him when the agency was right on the edge of the nigger part of town. A nigger was a human being who was black. I know him the way a combat soldier knows his buddy, said Harry. We used to put our lives on the line every day when the agency was down on Jefferson Street. We got held up on the average of 14 times a year. And I tell you that the Dwayne of today is a Dwayne I never saw before. It was true about the holdups. That was how Dwayne bought a Pontiac agency so cheaply. White people were the only people with money enough to buy new automobiles, except for a few black criminals who always wanted Cadillacs. And white people were scared to go anywhere on Jefferson Street anymore. Here is where Dwayne got the money to buy the agency. He borrowed it from the Midland County National Bank. For collateral, he put up stock he owned in a company which was then called the Midland City Ordnance Company. It later became Barrytron Limited. When Dwayne first got the stock in the depths of the Great Depression, the company was called the Robo-Magic Corporation of America. The name of the company kept changing through the years because the nature of its business changed so much, but its management hung on to the company's original motto, for old time's sake. The motto was this: Goodbye, Blue Monday. Listen, Harry LeSabre said to Francine, when a man has been in combat with another man, he gets so he can sense the slightest change in his buddy's personality. And Dwayne has changed. You ask Vernon Garr. Vernon Garr was a white mechanic who was the only other employee who had been with Dwayne before Dwayne moved the agency out to the interstate. As it happened, Vernon was having trouble at home. His wife, Mary, was a schizophrenic, so Vernon hadn't noticed whether Dwayne had changed or not. Vernon's wife believed that Vernon was trying to turn her brains into plutonium. Harry LeSabre was entitled to talk about combat. He had been in actual combat in a war. Dwayne hadn't been in combat. He was a civilian employee of the United States Army Air Corps during the Second World War, though. One time he got to pin a message on a 500-pound bomb, which was going to be dropped on Hamburg, Germany. This was it. Here's the message that he painted. Goodbye, Blue Monday. And a lovely drawing of a bomb. I swear the drawings are what make this book. Hey, Sadie's here. Hey, Sadie, how's it going? Lots of comments. Lots of comments. Lots of Cormac McCarthy stuff. I will hop in to the Cormac McCarthy stuff later. Yeah. Okay, anyways, he painted a message on a bomb. Harry, said Francine, everybody is entitled to a few bad days. Dwayne has fewer than anybody I know, so when he does have one like today, some people are hurt and surprised. They shouldn't be. He's human, like anybody else. But why should he single out me? Harry wanted to know. He was right. Dwayne had singled him out for astonishing insults and abuse that day. Everybody else still found Dwayne nothing but charming. Later on, of course, Dwayne would assault all sorts of people, even 3 strangers from Erie, Pennsylvania, who had never been to Midland City before. But Harry was an isolated victim now. Why me? Said Harry. This was a common question in Midland City. People were always asking that as they were loaded into ambulances after accidents of various kinds, or arrested for disorderly conduct, or burglarized, or socked in the nose, and so on. Why me? Probably because he felt that you were man enough and friend enough to put up with him on one of his few bad days, said Francine. How would you like it if he insulted your clothes? Said Harry. This is what Dwayne had done to him, insulted his clothes. I would remember that he was the best employer in town, said Francine. This was true. Dwayne paid high wages. He had profit sharing and Christmas bonuses at the end of every year. He was the first automobile dealer in his part of the state to offer his employees Blue Cross Blue Shield, which was health insurance. He had a retirement plan which was superior to every retirement plan in the city, with the exception of the one at Barrytron. His office door was always open to any employee who had troubles to discuss, whether they had to do with the automobile business or not. For instance, on the day he insulted Harry's clothing, he also spent 2 hours with Vernon Garr discussing the hallucinations Vernon's wife was having. She sees things that aren't there, said Vernon. She needs rest, Vern, said Dwayne. Maybe I'm going crazy too, said Vernon. Christ, I go home and I talk for hours to my fucking dog. That makes 2 of us, said Dwayne. Here is the scene between Harry and Dwayne which upset Harry so much. Harry went into Dwayne's office right after Vernon left. He expected no trouble because he had never had any serious trouble with Dwayne. How's my old combat buddy today? He said to Dwayne. As good as can be expected, said Dwayne. Anything special bothering you? No, said Harry. Vern's wife thinks Vern is trying to turn her brains into plutonium, said Dwayne. What's plutonium? Said Harry, and so on. They rambled along, and Harry made up a problem for himself just to keep the conversation lively. He said he was sad sometimes that he had no children. But I'm glad in a way too, he said. He went on. I mean, why should I contribute to overpopulation? Dwayne didn't say anything. Maybe we should have adopted one, said Harry, but it's too late now. And the old lady and me, we have a good time just horsing around with ourselves. What do we need a kid for? It was after the mention of adoption that Dwayne blew up. He himself had been adopted by a couple who had moved to Midland City from West Virginia in order to make big money as factory workers in the First World War. Dwayne's real mother was a spinster schoolteacher who wrote sentimental poetry and claimed to be descended from Richard the Lionhearted, who was a king. His real father was an itinerant typesetter who seduced his mother by setting her poems in type. What a little miniature story that is. I love that. He didn't sneak them into a newspaper or anything. It was enough for her that they were set in type. She was a defective childbearing machine. She destroyed herself automatically while giving birth to Dwayne. The printer disappeared. He was a disappearing machine. It may be that the subject of adoption caused an unfortunate chemical reaction in Dwayne's head. At any rate, Dwayne suddenly snarled this at Harry. Harry, why don't you get a bunch of cotton waste from Vern Garr, soak it in blue Sunoco? Is that oil? And burn up your fucking wardrobe. You make me feel like I'm at Watson Brothers. Watson Brothers was the name of the funeral parlor for white people who were at least moderately well-to-do. Blue Sunoco was a brand of gasoline. There we go. Harry was startled, and then pain set in. Dwayne had never said anything about his clothes in all the years he'd known him. The clothes were conservative and neat, in Harry's opinion. His shirts were white, his ties were black or navy blue, his suits were gray or dark blue, his shoes and socks were black. Listen, Harry, said Dwayne, and his expression was mean. Hawaiian Week is coming up, and I'm absolutely serious. Burn your clothes and get new ones, or apply for work at Watson Brothers. Have yourself embalmed while you're at it. Harry couldn't do anything but let his mouth hang open. The Hawaiian Week that Dwayne had mentioned was a sales promotion scheme which involved making the agency look as much like the Hawaiian Islands as possible. People who bought new or used cars or had repairs done in excess of $500 during the week would be entered automatically in a lottery. 3 lucky people would each win a free, all-expenses-paid trip to Las Vegas and San Francisco, and then Hawaii for a party of 2. I don't mind that you have the name of a Buick, Harry, when you're supposed to be selling Pontiacs, Dwayne went on. He was referring to the fact that the Buick division of General Motors put out a model called the LeSabre. You can't help that. Dwayne now patted the top of his desk softly. This was somehow more menacing than if he had pounded the desk with his fist. God, I can't read today. But there are a hell of a lot of things you can change, Harry. There's a long weekend coming up. I expect to see some big changes in you when I come to work on Tuesday morning. The weekend was extra long because the coming Monday was a national holiday, Veterans Day. It was in honor of people who had served their country in uniform. When we started selling Pontiacs, Harry, said Dwayne, the car was sensible transportation for school teachers and grandmothers and maiden aunts. This was true. Perhaps you haven't noticed, Harry, but the Pontiac has now become a glamorous, youthful adventure for people who want a kick out of life. And you dress and act like this was a mortuary. Look at yourself in a mirror, Harry, and ask yourself, who could ever associate a man like this with a Pontiac? Harry LeSabre was too choked up to point out to Dwayne that, no matter what he looked like, he was generally acknowledged to be one of the most effective sales managers for Pontiac, not only in the state, but the entire Middle West. Pontiac was the best-selling automobile in the Midland City area, despite the fact that it was not a low-price car. It was a medium-price car. Dwayne Hoover told poor Harry LeSabre that the Hawaiian Festival, only a long weekend away, was Harry's golden opportunity to loosen up, to have some fun, to encourage other people to have some fun too. Harry, said Dwayne, I have some news for you. Modern science has given us a whole lot of wonderful new colors with strange, exciting names like red, orange, green, and pink, Harry. We're not stuck anymore with just black, gray, and white. Isn't that good news, Harry? And the state legislator has just announced that it is no longer a crime to smile during work hours, Harry. And I have the personal promise of the governor that never again will anybody be sent to the sexual offenders wing of the adult correctional institution for telling a joke. On that note, I'm going to take a drink. Alright, just like 2 pages left. 3 pages left. Harry LeSabre might have weathered all this with only minor damage if only Harry hadn't been a secret transvestite. On weekends, he liked to dress up in women's clothing, and not drab clothing either. Harry and his wife would pull down the window blinds, and Harry would turn into a bird of paradise. Nobody but Harry's wife knew his secret. When Dwayne razzed him about the clothes he wore to work, and then mentioned the sexual offenders wing of the adult correctional institution at Shepherdstown, Harry had to suspect that his secret was out. And it wasn't merely a comical secret either. Harry could be arrested for what he did on weekends. He could be fined up to $3,000 and sentenced to as much as 5 years at hard labor in the sexual offenders wing of the adult correctional institution at Shepherdstown. So poor Harry spent a wretched Veterans Day weekend after that. But Dwayne spent a worse one. Here is what the last night of that weekend was like for Dwayne. His bad chemicals rolled him out of bed. They made him dress as though there was some sort of emergency with which he had to deal. This was in the wee hours. Veterans Day had ended at the stroke of 12. Dwayne's bad chemicals made him take a loaded .38 caliber revolver from under his pillow and stick it in his mouth. This was a tool whose only purpose was to make holes in human beings. It looked like this. In Dwayne's part of the planet, anyone who wanted one could get one down at the local hardware store. Policemen all had them, so did the criminals, so did the people caught in between. Criminals would point guns at people and say, "Give me all your money," and the people usually would. And policemen would point their guns at criminals and say, "Stop," or whatever the situation called for, and the criminals usually would. Sometimes they wouldn't, Sometimes a wife would get so mad at her husband that she would put a hole in him with a gun. Sometimes a husband would get so mad at his wife that he would put a hole in her, and so on. In the same week, Dwayne Hoover ran amok. A 14-year-old Midland City boy put holes in his mother and father because he didn't want to show them the bad report card he had brought home. His lawyer planned to enter a plea of temporary insanity, which meant that at the time of the shooting, the boy was unable to distinguish the difference between right and wrong. Sometimes people would put holes in famous people so that they could be at least fairly famous too. Sometimes people would get on airplanes which were supposed to fly to someplace, and they would offer to put holes in the pilot and co-pilot unless they flew the airplane to someplace else. Dwayne held the muzzle of the gun in his mouth for a while. He tasted oil. The gun was loaded and cocked. There were neat little metal packages containing charcoal, potassium nitrate, and sulfur, only inches from his brain. He had only to trip a lever, and the powder would turn to gas. The gas would blow a chunk of lead down a tube and through Dwayne's brains. But Dwayne elected to shoot up one of his tiled bathrooms instead. He put chunks of lead through his toilet and a wash basin and a bathtub enclosure. There was a picture of a flamingo sandblasted on the glass of the bathtub enclosure. It looked like this. Honestly, a lovely picture. And I love the, we know what's coming, but you can put it at bay for a second with a picture like that. I love that. Dwayne shot the flamingo. He snarled at his recollection of it afterwards. Here is what he snarled. Dumb fucking bird. Nobody heard the shots. All the houses in the neighborhood were too well insulated for sound ever to get in or out. A sound wanting in or out of Dwayne's dream house, for instance, had to go through an inch and a half of plasterboard, polystyrene, I'm not going to get that one right. A polystyrene vapor barrier, a sheet of aluminum foil, a 3-inch airspace, another sheet of aluminum foil, a 3-inch blanket of glass wool, another sheet of aluminum foil, 1 inch of insulating board made of pressed sawdust, tar paper, 1 inch of wood sheathing, more tar paper, and then aluminum siding, which was hollow. The space in the siding was filled with a miracle insulating material developed for use on rockets to the moon. Dwayne turned on the floodlights around his house, and he played basketball on the blacktop apron outside his 5-car garage. Dwayne's dog Sparky hid in the basement when Dwayne shot up the bathroom. But he came out now. Sparky watched Dwayne play basketball. You and me, Sparky, said Dwayne, and so on. He sure loved that dog. Nobody saw him playing basketball. He was screened from his neighbors by trees and shrubs and a high cedar fence. He put the basketball away, and he climbed into a black Plymouth Fury he had taken in trade the day before. The Plymouth was a Chrysler product, and Dwayne himself sold General Motors products. He had decided to drive the Plymouth for a day or two in order to keep abreast of the competition. As he backed out of his driveway, he thought it important to explain to his neighbors why he was in a Plymouth Fury. So he yelled out the window, "Keeping abreast of the competition." He blew his horn. Dwayne zoomed down Old County Road, and onto the interstate, which he had to do all himself. Which he had all to himself. Sorry about that. He swerved into exit 10 at a high rate of speed, slammed into a guardrail, spun around and around. He came out onto Union Avenue going backwards, jumped a curb, and came to a stop in a vacant lot. Dwayne owned the lot. Nobody saw or heard anything. Nobody lived in the area. A policeman was supposed to cruise by about once every hour or so, but he was cooping in an alley behind a Western Electric warehouse about 2 miles away. Cooping was police slang for sleeping on the job. Dwayne stayed in his vacant lot for a while. He played the radio. All the Midland City stations were asleep for the night, but Dwayne picked up a country music station in West Virginia, which offered him 10 different kinds of flowering shrubs and 5 fruit trees for $6. COD. Whatever that means. Sounds good to me, said Dwayne. He meant it. Almost all the messages which were sent and received in his country, even the telepathic ones, had to do with buying or selling some damn thing. They were like lullabies to Dwayne. Man, that chapter ends on exactly the right note. Almost all the messages which were sent and received in his country, even the telepathic ones, had to do with buying or selling some damn thing. They were like lullabies to Dwayne. I like that. That's chapters 3 and 4 in Breakfast of Champions. So, So far, we have Kilgore Trout, the terrible writer who, like a bird in a cage, is going to leave and then come back. And he also talks to his pet. And then we have Dwayne Hoover, who likes to talk to his pet and has bad chemicals in his brain that makes him do crazy shit. And that is where we are at on Breakfast of Champions. How was that? I also love that Vonnegut is an artist all over his novels. Sunoco? Is that how you say it? Sun Oil Company? Sunoco? I'm still not saying that correctly. Ooh, we're talking about really nice pens. I use these Sharpie really fine point pens, and I love them so much. Like 2 of them cost as much as, you know, other Bic pens. Like a 30 bag probably of Bic pens, but I just love a good pen. But I've used some fountain pens. I'm not very good at them. I really should I should get better at them. Philip says, I'll rewatch the stream sometime later this week to catch all of it. Thank you very much. Thanks for hanging out with me. COD is cash on delivery. I love it. Bringing the knowledge. Thank you. Arle or Arlie says something that I do not understand. Regalame una play 4, please. I don't know what that means. I think in our modern climate, things get political so fast. I don't mean to bring that to your channel, but it's something worth considering. I don't know a ton what you mean, but yeah, I mean, things get really political really quickly. It's true. It is true. I am either tipsy or something because I don't understand what. Would you recommend A Brief History of 7 Killings? Actually, I have the book up there, but I have not actually read it. So, I hope to, but I have not read it. Would you recommend... Oh, I already read that. What's your opinion on minimalist writing? I think all writing has its place. I don't know what you... Yeah, I'm definitely not a minimalist writer. That's what you mean. Personally, I'm just not. I have the tendency to... Like, I'm definitely more of a maximalist, hyper-realist. Yeah, like, realism is not as interesting to me as a writer. Minimalism is not as interesting to me as a writer. I should probably get better at the 2 of them. Personally, I'm more of a, like, maximalist, hyper-realist, that kind of stuff. Surrealist, probably, honestly. Surrealism is my it. Let's see here. What's your opinion on it, Christopher? I mean, I don't know. I like minimalist stuff. I think you can appreciate the artistry in almost anything. But yeah. How are we doing? Will you ever... Sadie asks a great question. Ryan, will we ever be able to read the play that you wrote? Sorry. Every time people mention it, I look over at the poster is on my wall as a memory of a very fond time in my life. Maybe. I don't know. How should we do that? I would be more than happy to let you guys read it. I don't know how, though. Should I post it somewhere? Should I just... I don't know. What do you think? Group reading over Discord. Ooh. Yeah, Sadie. The poster was made by a person who was involved with the production a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about it, I guess, real quick. Google Doc or PDF. Yeah, I could definitely do that. So, The play was called Another Thing Coming. It was probably about 75 minutes. I put it on, or I was the playwright in residence at my undergrad last fall. So around this time of year, which makes me a little sad. I think this weekend or next weekend was the weekend that it showed. And it was a very weird format for a play. So basically, I took these the task was you had about 20 students in this intro to acting class taught by a professor who taught me when I was at Wabash, and she directed a play that I was in, a 3-person play that I was in by Annie Baker, who is a brilliant playwright. Normal, if you're still hanging out, have you ever read Annie Baker? Because she is freaking brilliant. So anyways, I wrote this play. It was weird because I had to move characters in and out very quickly, or move actors in and out really quickly. But I wanted to keep one narrative arc going through the whole thing. So I wanted one character or a couple characters, but switch actors. I don't know. It sounds weird, but it was really good. Maybe I have a PDF of it. Maybe I will figure out a way to post it in a video sometime, and you guys can read it at your leisure if you are interested. Make sure your stuff can't be stolen and plagiarized if you put it online, though. Deal. I have a lot to learn, but I will figure out how to do that. Opinions on postmodernism. Just hang around the channel long enough. This is an evasion of that question, but hang around the channel long enough and you will hear my opinions on postmodernism. I think it's one of the simultaneously most useful and least useful modes of thought and criticism, or thought and, I don't know, art criticism out there, especially in the literature side of things. When it's done right, I am the biggest possible fan in the entire world. When it's done wrong, I struggle a lot. So just read normal. I would suggest read The Aliens by Annie Baker. That was the play that I was in. The Aliens is brilliant. She's good. She's really good. Okay, yeah, Carver and minimalism. Yeah. I'm a fan. I mean, so yeah, I think it all has its place, right? Like I said, so I don't think maximalism is good in its own right. I don't think minimalism is good in its own right. I don't think realism or hyperrealism or any of the different kinds of isms are good in their own right. I think they're only good if they are used in a way that gets at something where another style couldn't have gotten there quite as well. So Carver's like emotional subtlety and in Carver, to me, there's always this big looming thing, and to draw any attention to the looming thing would be to sell it short. And so you've got to kind of, it's there's this tiny little spotlight where the action is happening, but there's this big looming darkness, and if you shine the light over here, you've messed up. So you got to just be very minimal about what's happening here, and therefore you kind of, you put together from what's happening here the rest of the bigger picture. And I think it works really well for the kind of emotional subtlety and loneliness that he's writing about a lot. So let's see here. Cathedral's really good. Yeah, Cathedral's great. Carver, so apparently there's an interesting story with Carver where his editor was about as trying to remember exactly how this goes. So Carver had apparently one editor for lots of his life, and that editor was almost as influential in discerning Carver's style as Carver was. A lot of Carver's stories that we read, short stories specifically that we read, are the editor's versions of how this thing got, of a final version. And apparently the editor had a certain eye for it that Carver didn't quite have, but general consensus is that the two of them together are what made that super minimalist style. So I may have messed all of that up. Don't quote me on any of this. It's hard being live on camera because if you mess it up once, then it's all downhill from there. Sadie, definitely Cathedral. Cathedral's really good. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, so if you ever get a chance to read Cathedral in an academic setting, it's super great. I think it's also, of course, it stands up alone, just reading it yourself. That's a late night kind of read for me. Like, read Cathedral after everyone else is in bed. Also, what we talk about when we talk about love is really freaking good. Anyone seen the movie, what's it called, Stuck in Love? It includes references to the last lines of what we talk about when we talk about love, which is good. Stuck in Love, yeah, as a movie, it's good, it's good. My girlfriend's not here, so she can't, she really likes that movie, and I like it a lot too, but it's a little over the top sometimes, so. There are lots of comments. Lots of comments. Lots of comments. I haven't read Inherent Vice. Somebody give me a case. Make the case for me why I should read Inherent Vice next. I'm not going to, but somebody make that case for me. Somebody said in the beginning, I think in the beginning said, does it disturb you that we have a president that does not read? It disturbs me anytime we have anybody who doesn't read. But also, we have a bigger problem as a culture with like valuing reading that I think is partially to blame. I don't think individuals are I'm completely avoiding your question, by the way. I don't think individuals are always completely to blame for reading not being a bigger part of our culture, but I don't know. It's a weird time to be in. I think there's no like easy person to blame, right? For like literacy, novel, like book reading being probably down a little bit in the current culture. I think part of that is like Netflix is really good right now. Shorter attention spans are very real with cell phones in our hands. I think it is an author's job to do their very absolute best to write stuff that is still going to grab hold of you, to either write stuff that's still going to grab hold of you and be such an encapsulating narrative that you're hooked, or to write something that is really hard to work on, that it therefore presents a challenge to you and is its own kind of thing that can't happen in other mediums. I think it's publishers' job to try their very best to get the most percentage of the population reading. I think it's the population's job to value reading and talk about it and like lift it up in a way that makes it something that we strive for. This is such a complex question, but I have no answers, as is obvious, but I wish that more people read. I wish that our president read. Gonna leave that one there. So little space for apolitical conversation these days. Yeah, I mean, midterms are tomorrow, so it's really not a lot of space. Keep up the avoidance. Yeah, I avoid a lot. I'm good at it. Faulkner, yeah, man, I feel like he's difficult. I don't know. How did we like the reading of Breakfast of Champions? It's good, right? I enjoyed it. I'm loving it. BH Books and Classics. I think your name is Alan. It's Alan, right? Alan, you said a single comment, which was just stoners. Is there a context of that I should know about? It's really hard for me. I don't ever get the context. Reading out loud is super difficult. Yeah, I'm messing it up once every page at least. I'm glad you guys are liking it though. So Inherent Vice is easiest of Pynchon's books to read. Okay, I mean Crying of Lot 49 was pretty great. I think that's real easy to. Here's a picture of an asshole. Yeah. So I just realized we're 85 minutes in, and I'm probably gonna have to get off here before too long. I need to work on this beer a little bit more. I don't want to keep you guys up so late. Just kidding. We started early today, so it's only 7:30 here, but. Oh my god. Remember last week when I drank an 18% beer on stream and I thought that was a great idea? I was so hungover the next day. God, one single beer. One single beer. See you later, Alan. Thanks for hanging out. Real quick before we go, I'm going to read, we've been doing it in the past. I'm a big fan of tradition. I'm going to read one very short story from New American Stories. It's by Lydia Davis. So if you know Lydia Davis at all, you know that this is about to be very short. Real quick, Ryan, have you read any, excuse me, Otessa Moshfegh, which I'm probably mispronouncing. Excuse me. I have not. Sadie, who is Otessa Moshfegh? Also, is it bad that I don't know who it is? Yeah, Neil Gaiman is just graceful at everything that he does. His audiobooks are good, too. He's very good. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to read a Lydia Davis short story. So it's obviously very short. I think this is the first time on stream that I've had to pee as well. So now you know that. Aren't you so glad that you came and hung out with me? I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold it until we get done with the stream. But now you know. This is what you came for, right? Is to get an insight into my brain and my life. And congrats. The absolute beauty of my brain is that it's just like any other human brain, and half the time I'm just thinking about how I need to pee. Awesome. Okay, so real quick, this is a short story called Men by Lydia Davis. It's very short. There are also men in the world. Sometimes we forget and think that there are only women, endless hills and plains of unresisting women. We make little jokes and comfort each other, and our lives pass quickly. But every now and then, it is true, a man rises unexpectedly in our midst like a pine tree, and looks savagely at us, and sends us hobbling away in great floods to hide in the caves and gullies until he is gone. That's it. That's Men by Lydia Davis. Oh man, I've read that 2 or 3 times, and I like that a little bit more the third time around. Yeah, that was good. That is like, so a tactic, something I really like about that one. One of the tactics is in really, really short stories, you have to enter either 3/4 of the way into the story or at the end. Like you have to hop past so much information before. So the very first sentence of this short story, there are also, that word, also men in the world. So immediately you finish that sentence, you land on the period at the end, and you project backwards into like, as if the rest of this page were also paragraphs. And like, okay, so there must be paragraphs and paragraphs about women, about the world. We've been told about the world. And then we get to this one brief paragraph about men in the world. Yeah. It also, I think this is a benefit of really short stories, short stories. To me, it's easier to pull off the plural narrator in a short story than it is in a first-person story, because it makes the zooming in and out really easy. So if you have to zoom all the way into a first-person narrator or a third-person narrator with a really specific set of characteristics, you have to zoom into this very specific body, and you have to inhabit this body, and then you have to zoom out to do that kind of... a lot of times I say that like stories have this motion at the end. I think about stories in this way, like motion and shapes. To me, it's always this like lifting or like taking off motion at the end of a story. And it is very hard to do that kind of like zooming out, lifting off, taking flight motion if you're coming all the way from this tiny little zoomed in body. And so if you can use plural narrators, for instance, or a character that isn't exactly terribly specific, they're kind of just like he or she or the boy or whatever, it's a little bit easier to let go of them and to kind of make that big zoom out to leave and to have that kind of like rising or lifting motion that stories a lot of times end on. Anyways, I don't know why I got so hyped on that. I got like the idea of what I wanted to say, and then I just went right down that rabbit hole. So anyways, yeah, what's that called? I think it's called Play. The game, Sadie's talking about the Halloween one about Play. I think it's called Play. That is Play by Matthias Svalina. It's a fun name to say. Man, if you have stayed, if you have stuck around until the very end of this stream, I have a little surprise gift for you. I wasn't gonna do this, but apparently all it takes is 3/4 of a beer, and then I get there. Ooh, Alec says, like Steinbeck when he has a removed chapter following the specifics of the story. Exactly. So in Grapes of Wrath, he does that with like some larger historical chapters. Really great comment. Yeah, exactly. And then he does that right after super specific stuff. The boy from Araby. Yeah. Man, God, you guys are smart. I should read books in front of you all the time because it's so cool to read books as like a multi-consciousness thing where like you guys are having your ideas, I'm having mine, etc. Jerusalem by Jez Butterworth. I have not heard of that play. Huh, sounds good. Good Man is Hard to Find. Very good book. Or very good story. Okay, so the thing I was going to do that if you've hung around till here, you get this as a reward. I was not going to do this at all. Oh, crap. It's on my phone. I'm going to just read you a really quick short story that I wrote. And by short, I mean the 6-word short story thing. But the problem is that I'm live streaming from my phone and it is saved on my phone, and so I have to think of it really quickly. So give me 2 seconds. Don't look at me. I'm really embarrassed. I have to think of it. Okay, so you're familiar with the idea of a 6-word short story. The like really popular old wives' tale is that like Hemingway and Joyce were in a bar and they decided to have a contest to see who could come up with the shortest story that still made people feel really deeply. To me, I think that story is bullshit, and that's probably not where this came from. And it's such a it's so telling of us that we think that these 2 old men writers had this like pissing contest to see who could come up with the best story. Don't think that's exactly right. But anyway, 6-word short stories are the super popular thing. The Baby Shoes for Sale one, exactly. It is a really good story. So the one that I wrote the other day, this is like 2 days ago probably, was, I'm gonna spell out the punctuation and everything too. Marriage, proposal, answer, colon. In quotations are the next 3 lines. You owe me, period. End quotation. Marriage, proposal, answer, you owe me. That is my terribly great short story, a 6-word short story. Thanks so much for hanging out on the stream with me. This has been fun. I love Mondays. Mondays get so much better because I get to hang out with you guys. So how's that for getting to read some of my work? I skipped the whole, you can read all my short stories and chapters of a novel and my play and all that jazz, and I just gave you a tiny little short story. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. It's been my pleasure. I will see you guys on next Monday. How's that sound? Yeah, I'll hang out here for like 2 seconds. The short story was, some of you guys missed it. The short story was marriage, proposal, answer, colon, you owe me. All right, thanks for hanging out, guys. I will see you guys next Monday. I'll have a video out before then, too, so I think probably a Pale King video, maybe something, too. So, thanks for hanging out. Chronic says, Dream Story from Arthur Schnitzler is also a good short novel. Okay. I like that. Thanks for the recommendation. See you guys. An encounter. Who is an encounter by? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Anyways, I'm going to end it here.